This is, to be honest, the second time I'm filming this because the first time it stopped recording and I didn't catch it until I missed a whole bunch. So we're back out here, we're doing it again. Welcome to my future garden space. I wrote a blog post a couple weeks ago about my experience getting ready for my first garden here in Tennessee, and I'll link that below if anyone is interested in reading, but I also wanted to make a video because I know some people prefer different types of media, so now you have both options. To get started, I'm here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm in zone 7A, 7B. It fluctuates, and this is my first year doing a garden in the South. So when I lived in Minnesota, back in 2012 I think it was, I planted a small garden. It didn't go very well, but I also really just didn't have the time and the energy at that point in time in my life to really fully commit to a garden project. So I got a few things. A lot of stuff quickly died off because I wasn't properly taking care of it, but I still managed to learn a lot in the process. And so here we are for round 2 down in the South, which will be a lot different, a lot longer growing season. We've actually been having a really mild winter. The grass you can't see behind the camera is actually growing again, and it is January 29th today, so that should not be happening, but nonetheless, here we are. So I've actually had a lot of time to work on prepping this garden bed. So when I bought this house, this is the front of my house here. This had some bushes in it that I didn't really know what they were. I didn't know how to take care of them, so they quickly died off, and I was frankly okay with that because I knew I wanted to do something different with the area anyways. And so I started digging things up, and when I was digging up the plants that were in this area and the weeds that had fully taken over, I noticed that there was some shingles buried underneath, which is never what you want to find in your future garden space. So I did a lot more digging to make sure that I could get all those up. Luckily they were fairly deep, and I'm going to add more compost onto the top of this. There's some compost on here already, but I'm going to add a couple more inches before I get to planting. So hopefully it will still go okay having there been shingles buried in the dirt, but we'll see. I was really afraid it was going to be the whole bed. Luckily it seems to be mostly down in the front area that there were shingles buried, so definitely a better scenario than what I thought was going to happen when I found them. The second hiccup I ran into with this bed is that when I was digging through for the shingles, which ended up being good so that I could find this out, but the soil is very rocky. This is probably the most extreme case that I found, but it is not the only rock this size that I found in this garden bed. I found a lot of smaller ones. There's actually a pile right here off camera that you can't see. Most of them are about this size. I probably have at least 15 gallons of rocks this size that I pulled out of this bed, and then some. I had to kind of make the decision to pull out as much as I could and leave some of the smaller rocks and hope that they won't be a massive hindrance in any growth. Once I found all the rocks, realized how rocky the soil was, I'm guessing the previous owners didn't want to pay for all the soil that it took to fill this bed, so they combined it with gravel as well. Just really not what I wanted to find. So my original plan was to just kind of amend this soil with compost. Now I'm going to be actually adding quite a decent layer of compost on top, because there are still lots and lots and lots of smaller rocks, and I just had to decide that I couldn't go through and get rid of all of them. It would take way too long. It's not how I wanted to spend my time. I have another solution for growing as well, which I'll get to. So I got out as much of the big pieces as I could. As I've been going through and pulling additional weeds and things like that, I've been grabbing out any smaller ones that I see that are at the surface and easy, and hopefully it'll be okay. with all of that. So we'll see. I have no idea what's going to happen with this bed. I have no idea if anything's going to grow in it. It is fully even more trial and error than I originally thought that this whole project was going to be. So if you have any tips or experience growing in rocky soil, let me know. I tried to do a lot of research about what can grow and tolerate. So there's going to be some okra going into this bed because I know that that can tolerate bad soil, some zucchini as well. And then a couple other things that probably won't do as well, but I just want to try anyways, cucumbers and tomatoes and some peppers. So we'll see what happens with this bed. It will be a full-on experiment and I will keep you up to date on its progress. But for now, it's just awaiting some more compost and for it to be planting season. I mentioned that I have another planting option as well, and that is these Bootstrap Farmer grow bags. So I got the 10-pack of the 7-gallon for Christmas, which I'm very, very excited about. And when I got them and I saw the quality, I'd heard a lot of really good things about them, so I knew they were going to be good. But I ended up also going ahead and ordering the 25 gallons as well. But in my container gardening research, a lot of things seem to be able to grow in 5 gallons or bigger. So I figured 7 gallons is a good place to start. I'm really planning on only putting one plant in each of these and then doing some staking to give them place to grow and trellis as needed. These are really nice because any excess water will just drain out the bottom. You don't have to worry about holes or anything like that. They can be washed and reused year after year, and they're flexible and they have these handles, so they're a lot lighter to move around if for any reason you do need to move them around. So really happy with these, really excited to use them and give it a shot. One prep thing I still need to work on is researching a good fertilizer to use. Because I am growing in a container, fertilizer will be even more important than it is in an in-ground or a raised bed. So if you have any recommendations, leave that in the comments below as well. The most helpful thing that I used when I was prepping this garden bed was this Bare Bones Hori Hori knife that my boyfriend got me for Christmas, and I am fully 110% in love with. It is amazing. It has 3 different sharp areas, so there's this serrated edge that was really helpful for digging, cutting up some roots that were in here left over from the plants that were in there before. It has this notch here as well that you can use to kind of cut smaller roots or harvest in the future, and then this flat knife edge here as well. And let me get closer here. It's just a really cool tool. It's solid all the way through, so you don't have to worry about it breaking here at the handle point. It's hefty, like it's heavier than I thought it was going to be, but it is worth every penny so far. I'm really glad I had it on my Amazon wish list. I'm really glad that he found it because it has been super, super helpful so far. A lot of other gardeners that you may or may not watch have talked about it. I know that Jess at Roots and Refuge Farm has talked about it. I know that Luke at MI Gardener has talked about it. So if you watch a lot of YouTube gardening already, you probably already know about this tool and these bags, because Jess at Roots and Refuge Farm is how I found them. So but if you haven't, definitely worth checking out. I'm really glad that I got it, and it's been super, super useful already, especially when it came to digging out around some of those bigger rocks and things. The next part of my planning process was this beautiful, beautiful seed catalog. So this is the Baker Creek seed catalog. This is the paid version. They do have a free version. This was, I think, $12 or something, worth every freaking penny. Because I am the organization nerd that I am, I went through and tabbed off all the sections of things I knew I wanted to grow so I could easily flip through and read. And then I went through and I read, they have all these beautiful spreads, beautiful descriptions about different things, and they even have some of these like bigger spreads where they really go deep dive into a variety, which is super, super helpful. So now it was a great resource for when I was trying to decide what I wanted to grow and what varieties I wanted to grow. And now it's an even better resource to look up what varieties I do have and see what they say, because it has days to maturity. It talks about just different things to know about the plant, when to harvest it, where it came from, where it originated from, all sorts of great information that isn't necessarily on the seed packet itself. So I will be hanging on to this as the year goes through so I can reference it as I need to. But it is truly a beautiful work of art in its own right. Baker Creek has been really great. I'm super helpful with all my seed orders. You get free seeds with every order as well, so that's always a fun roulette game to play of what you're gonna get, and I'm really excited to use their seeds this year and see what happens. The next part of my planning process involved a good old notebook. So I wanted to grow a lot of things. I have 10 of the 7-gallon bags. I have 5 of the 25-gallon bags. And then I have this garden bed here, which is roughly, I think, 6 feet by 9 feet or so. So I have a lot of space to grow in, but I still need to be strategic with that space. Especially because I am going to be doing some carrots, radishes, collard greens, things that are more cold season. And then obviously your tomatoes, your cucumbers, which are your true summer vegetables. So there will be a little bit of succession sowing happening. There will be some, this will be carrots until the carrots won't grow anymore because it's too hot, and then it'll be something else. So I really wanted to plan that out well and not go so haphazardly into the wind. There's a little bit of haphazardly into the wind happening, but I just wanted to have a good plan in place so I could know what to start when, what I actually had space for, because I knew if I didn't do this, which I will show you up closely in a second, that I would just go way too ham and be in over my head and not have enough space for all the plants I started, which will probably still happen, but at least I have a plan on what's going where. It also was really helpful because I needed to do a lot of research. What can go good in containers? What size container do they need? How, you know, what spacing does the plant need and things like that. This felt even more important to me than if I was just doing raised beds, because I needed to make sure I was strategically putting plants in the right containers or in the in-ground if the container was absolutely not going to be an option. There's a lot of uncertainty for me going into this project, so I'm just trying to set myself up for the most success that I can. So what I did was I drew out a space for each of my bags, and I actually drew this before I got the 25 gallons, so those are just over here. I drew out this plot over here and crossed it by 18 inches to make squares and all these things. And then I took and I wrote on these little post-it notes, I really hope this is in focus, on these little post-it notes the things I wanted to grow. And this actually had a different set of post-it notes on it until I got my seeds in, and then I did new ones once I had the varieties, so I could plan out what varieties would go where from there. So it's, you know, up here I have a round planter that I'm going to put peas in because peas don't need as much space as some other things. I've got kale, I've got peppers, I've got tomatoes, cucumbers and things that are going into planters, and then the beets and kohlrabi that I'm going to put in this in-ground because they're not as deep as carrots, and so the rocks that are in there shouldn't be a problem for them, because when I put more compost down they shouldn't hit the rocks and disform. I might throw some carrots in here anyways just to see what happens. Tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, zucchini at the end. I've got planter boxes in my windows that I'm going to do herbs in and all of that. So this is just what I use to plan and map out and say, okay, I bought all these lovely seeds. How many varieties can I actually grow, and where is the best place for them to go? So that is how I planned that. I have another spread in here that I actually just started today, where I'm going to track everything. I will talk about that at another point. Like I said earlier, it is January 29th here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Zone 7A, 7B, and so next week is February. I'll be out of town next week. And so when I get back into town, seed starting will be in full swing, and I am very, very excited. I might just go ahead and direct sow some stuff like radishes and beets that can handle that right now. It's beautiful here right now. Like I said, we're having a very mild winter, and so I should be able to do that and it be okay for now. We had a cold snap a couple weeks ago. We might get another one, but I don't think it will be so bad that it will really mess up those seeds. They're pretty hardy for the cold weather. So really excited. I will be back for another video showing you what I'm using for my starts, what I'm starting when, because there'll be kind of 2 waves of starts, one for cold weather stuff, another for warmer weather stuff. And yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing this journey with you all and seeing my documented process, because I think, as we're all aware, when you're very up close to something, sometimes progress feels very slow or very small, when in reality it's not that. So I'm looking forward to having a documentation of where I'm at, and my beautiful rocky January garden bed that has nothing in it but soil, rocks, and a little bit of compost. So here we go. 2020 garden. First attempt. Send me all your well wishes in the comments, any advice that you have, any questions that you have you want me to answer, and I will do my best to answer them. I'm not an expert, obviously. This is my first garden, but I do consume a lot of media. And so I will do my best to share the knowledge that I do have.